talk about my audition. My audition for Juilliard. It took place, it was from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. And you're like, why did that happen? Why did it take so long? So I grew up, born and raised in New York City. I actually went to high school right across the street from Juilliard, to LaGuardia High School. I had my 4 monologues prepared, which I had gotten from teachers at school. I did Romeo and Juliet, Romeo. I did Before It Hits Home by Cheryl D. West. I did The Laramie Project by Moises Coffin. Oh, and I did Othello by Shakespeare. There are tons of people. There's tons of people in audition in the waiting room. I'm waiting around, you know, I'm trying to keep to myself a little bit, like doing a little bit of exercises, going over my pieces in my head. The monitor was really nice outside the door, and she was like, okay, your turn. I was like, all right, oh boy, here we go. Went into the room, I did the first piece, Othello, and they were like, okay, good, cool. And then I did my second piece. They were like, nice, and they sat and they talked amongst themselves for a little bit. I felt confident. I wasn't really sure how to feel, but I was like, okay, I felt like I did good work. I'm gonna let them chat for a bit amongst themselves. And then they were like, do you have a third piece? I was like, yeah, I did that. And then it was over. And we waited a couple of hours for the callback list to come up. The callback list went up. Mind blown. Oh my gosh. There was 14 of us. And this time they wanted us to come in again one at a time and do our pieces, but this time for all of the faculty. I went in, did my first piece, I did Othello, boom. Then I did Laramie Project, boom. Then they talked amongst themselves again, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then they were like, can you do a third piece? I was like, sure. So this time I did the Cheryl D. West, Before It Hits Home. I was so nervous. There's like 30 people watching you. I did the piece, and they're like, great, cool, thank you. I went and I waited outside again. Then they cut our 14 down to 11. Okay, and now the 11 of us, we all go into a room together and we do voice exercises, we do some speech exercises, and a little bit of movement. So we worked with Moni Yakim, who was our movement teacher, worked with Ralph Zito at the time, who was the head of the voice and speech department. And we just did some voice and action exercises like that. So we did it again in front of the hall. All the faculty were throwing back balls, or playing zip, zap, zop, and we're making sounds with our mouths, and hee, ooh, ha, all those things. They cut my 11 down to 9. And then after that, we did our pieces one more time. One more time did our pieces. After that, they cut our 9 down to 5. At this point now, it's about like 10 p.m. at night. I'm like, oh my gosh, what else do you need to see? I've been literally acting for the whole day, the same pieces over and over again. And you know, I'm still with it though. I'm happy, I'm excited. I walked into the room. It was actually in an office this time. And they asked me to read a passage. I don't even know what that passage was right now, but they asked me to read from a passage of a poem or some sort, and just read it out loud. So I read it out loud. They listened to me. I spoke to them a bit about my acting experience, because I've also been acting professionally before I got to college. And so I know I needed more training, but I was gonna have to stop acting professionally to come get training, which is okay. So I explained that to them and how I really wanted to do that. And that was it. When I stepped outside, there was a huge snowstorm. And I trekked it all the way back to Queens, and I waited for a couple of, maybe about a month. And I was in 42nd Street, Times Square in the Applebee's. I got a phone call from my mom, and she's like, hey, this woman named Kathy Hood, she said that you should call. There's something wrong with your application. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Brandon, of course something wrong with your application. What didn't you put in? You didn't put your transcript. There's something that you did that's going to mess up your chances. I'm like, damn, all right. Hey, Kathy, how are you? It's Brandon Gill, just giving you a call back. My mom said you called. What's going on? She said, hey, Brandon, we were just reviewing your application, and we just wanted you to know that we'd love to welcome you to the class of 2009. What did you just say? I was so hype, y'all. so hyped. I was so excited. Running up and down the escalator and screaming on 42nd Street because I was going to the Juilliard School for my BFA in acting. It's an exciting time, you guys, but that was my Juilliard Drama School audition.